impressive. This man has held 6 different belts. The only team to win all 3 major belts. The Crockett Cup. This man's a legend in his
How am I not going to like this guy, right? He knows.
Welcome to another edition of Hero Television. I'm your host, PL Myers, along with Johngy. We're here with Sandrell Ross. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate your time. For the viewers out there that have seen you on YouTube, Facebook, all the different things that you've done, extraordinaire, from poetry to comedy to actress, you name it, you do it all. How did you get your start?
Well, I started in poetry. I basically wrote a poem and I sent it off to the National Poetry Contest, which they came back and I won. And I was amazed. I was like, wait a minute. This is my first time ever writing a poem, and I won. And then they came back and they said, oh, yeah, in order to claim your prize, you got to fly out to California. It'll be this fee. And I was like, no.
And what did you get if you fly all the way out?
Right? A medal? No, I don't think I'm going to do that. But that actually started me writing poetry. And then a friend of mine, a musician, introduced me to the poetry scene where I actually started performing poetry.
And with your first poem, what were you writing about?
The uncivilized nation, basically. the problems we have in the world. Most of my poetry is about issues in the world. So, yeah, that was
going right after that for that medal. Like, if I'm going to get the medal, I'm going to go all the way there. And then going from poetry, to doing spoken word to comedy, how do you make the jump in that transition?
I would tell everyone, if I had been introduced to comedy before poetry, I would have been a comedian and then a poet.
Okay.
So I was always funny, even though my poems were serious. Me outside of poetry was always being a fun person to be around. So, and when I got introduced to comedy, is actually when I met my husband. And
what's his name again?
Mickey Housley.
Oh, that's the guy we interviewed. Okay.
Yeah, I think you interviewed him before. But yeah, Mickey Housley. Yeah, and when we started hanging out, that's when I was like, hey, I want to get on stage too. And that's when I tried comedy for the first time. A few years, 2 years after I've been doing poetry.
So before the comedy, before the poetry, when you were a wee little tyke, what did you think you were going to do in life?
I thought I was going to be a doctor, and then I decided, no, I'm going to be an accountant. Nothing in entertainment ever crossed my mind when I was a wee little, what is that, 3 years old?
3, 4, 5,
4.
somewhere in that range.
I think I was thinking about the candy can man or ice cream truck. I just wanted ice cream at that time, that age. Maybe when I was around 10 years old, I did want to be a doctor. That's what everybody.
Now you mentioned comedy, you mentioned poetry. Who would be your role models in each of those fields?
For poetry, one of my role models is Rain. She's called Rain the Sexy Poet. She does a lot of poetry, and she actually was my mentor. And she took me everywhere, and she helped me out. We did pieces together, and yeah, she was my bridesmaid, one of my bridesmaids for my wedding. So yeah, she is very important to me as far as poetry is concerned. And stand up. It would be Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac is the guy. And the person I looked up to as far as, someone who's not famous is my dad. He's always a goofball, pranking me, and I became a prankster, and that's why I was so goofy.
Now, for the viewers out there, tell them about your upbringing as far as your both parents, with their background.
Okay. So my parents, for one is part Asian, one is part Indian. My parents are hardcore Christians as well. So coming up in a hardcore Christian's house, we didn't have summer vacation. We had summer Bible vacation. Like, we would go to Bible school for summer. And my mom, she was actually in the military, so she was also strict. She was the strict side of my life. Very just made sure everything happened the way it should have happened. And my dad was more laid back, but he always used to talk to us all the time and try out his sermons with us when we were kids, me and my sisters, because he was a reverend, so he would always try out his sermons with the kids. And we were like, oh, please just punish us or something. We don't want to hear this. And yeah, so it was kind of a little different growing up in my house, but it was fun.
And what's the reaction now that, you have these two role models that have, influenced you, and now they see you successful in poetry and comedy? What's their take on it? I know the parents are proud, but I mean, you must get their funny bone here and there.
Yeah, yeah, I have them in my comedy, so they definitely like, wait a minute, what are you saying about me? But they enjoy it. My dad is probably one of the biggest supporters I have as far as anything I'm doing. When I graduated from high school to college to doing poetry, starting stand-up, starting acting, any and everything, my dad's probably been my biggest supporter in that aspect. And my mom, she's also very supportive.
So just between us, we won't tell him. Who's funnier, you or your husband? He won't know.
Well, you know what? My husband is very funny.
That didn't answer the question.
I know.
Okay, we'll switch gears then. Very diplomatic of you. So you said your role model in poetry was the sexy poetry?
Rain the sexy poet.
Rain the sexy
Gotta
poet.
say Rain.
I
She will.
I don't want her to So being that she was your role model, and then you got to, she mentored you, she became a friend, obviously. What was that like?
That was amazing. For someone to have such a big following and really take me on her wing, it was just amazing that I was able to even be next to her most of the time, to be able to be a part of her poems. We made poems together, so she would have a piece and I would have a piece. We would do it together. We actually did some scenes, even with my husband included. So it was just an amazing experience to be around her.
And with the poetry and you talk about your influences and stuff. What else would you like to write about? Just today's events, or other things that inspire you for your poetry?
It's whatever that hits my heart to write down. It's not always social events. I have, other poems about other things, but mostly I have inspirational poetry to inspire people to be better than themselves.
And you've done so much with inspiring people because of your successes. What advice do you give to people that come up to you? It's like, hey, you're so funny. I want to become a comedian, or the poetry. What advice do you give to them?
I tell them to do whatever they want to do and don't let anyone tell them that they can't, because 9 times out of 10, no one knows your potential. I remember when I was coming out of high school, my advisor told me I couldn't go to a 4-year college right out of high school. And I was like, well, why not? Well, the backstory is I was in an accident and I lost a grade. So I was noted way down in the GPA. Yeah, my GPA wasn't as good, but it was a 2.6 or 2.5, so it was good enough. It was just I was slow in my class. And he told me, he said, you probably can go to a community college for 2 years and then go to a university. And I was like, no, I'm going straight to a university, because I knew my potential. And I did my research and I went straight to a university. Just like that. You just have to go for what you want and not let anybody tell you what you can't and can't do. So that's the advice I would tell everybody, Even my first show in comedy, a lot of people told me I was going to struggle on my first show, my first real paid show in comedy, and I killed it. Like, I did one of the best performances in that show. So, yeah, that would be my advice. I would tell any and everybody who comes to me for advice.
Now, you've done a ton of different stuff, varied fields, varied stuff. What do you see as a future goal of yours? Is there something else that you want to try?
My next goal is to be one-woman show, to put it all together. All the things I know how to do that I was blessed to be able to learn, I want to put it all together and showcase it to everybody, anybody, the world.
Now I asked.
The galaxy.
The galaxy needs to see.
The galaxy needs to see.
Coming to Mars. Here we go, the first ever show.
I'll be in space.
Now I asked your husband this in the last show, and I'll ask you on the rare occasion, what do you do if you go out there either in the poetry or in comedy, and you just think like, wow, this audience is just not responding?
I keep my confidence. That's a major point. Whenever you're performing, you have to keep your confidence. And either the hurdle will pass, or if they're not feeling you, then you just understand that it's not your comedy or not your performance because it's worked everywhere else. You just have to push through it and keep going. And don't stop. Don't go into a ball or anything, because that's the worst thing you can ever do. But just keep going with the most confidence you can and finish the show out.
On that note, we'll be right back with more of Hero TV.
Hey, it's me, Rich Coes, close personal friend of Svengoolie from MeTV, and you're watching Hero TV.
We're back here on Hero Television, and while we were at break, you were telling us about what actually happened, why you were kind of held back.
Yes, like I said, in my 9th grade year, I got in a car accident, which led me to be temporarily paralyzed. And because of that, I failed all my grades. They gave me all 69s for that whole year, and I had to take 9th grade again. But I couldn't take it at the 9th grade center, so I had to go to the big high school to take my 9th grade. And what I did is I took extra classes. I even went to a community college to take extra classes so I can graduate on my year, because I wanted to graduate on my year I was originally supposed to graduate. And when I did graduate, my ESM, which is my advisor, told me, oh, well, you can't go straight to a university. I know that's what you want to do, but what you can do is go to a community college for 2 years and then go to a university, which, if you think about it, is not bad advice. But if that's the advice you're telling students, that you can't do what you most want, you're more passionate about doing, that's kind of like telling them what their potential is.
Well, with your determination, tell us about Second City, because you were the first. And you got to tell our audience, because when we were at the comedy show, you're telling the whole audience, and like, wow, I was really impressed.
Yeah, so at Second City, I took acting classes, strictly acting classes at Second City, and I was part of the first ever advanced acting conservatory class to graduate at Second City in Chicago, and they didn't even have one in LA for that class, that advanced class. So I was the first one in the first class to ever do that. It was 7 girls, 7 boys, and so 14 people, and then I was the only African American in that class. So that was also, I was like, hey, well, I made history twice. Ha ha. So it was pretty fun. It was a pretty crazy experience. It was a lot of fun, and you can also see the differences in the cultures and how they would look at a scene and how they would act out that scene or be in that scene. Well, not act out, but actually be in that scene.
Now, going back to the accident just for a second, you said you were temporarily paralyzed.
Yes.
Did you know at the time it was only temporary, or like what was the prognosis?
Well, after the accident, immediately after the accident, I was unconscious, and I wasn't fully conscious for about 3 days. And when I actually opened my eyes to consciousness, I was like, oh, it was a dream. And then I couldn't move my legs. So, but eventually I started being able to move my legs, and the doctors, they still was not sure if I was going to be able to walk normally or not. So at the immediate beginning, no, we did not know. But after time passed and I started doing therapy, I was actually determined to walk. I wasn't going to stay in the chair and let someone tell me, take it slow. I was like, oh, no, I could do it. I'm glad I didn't hurt myself. That would have been worse. But, yeah, I was very determined to walk, and yes, I am walking again.
Well, yes, you are walking. That leads me to the next question. Your determination, obviously, in the brief time that we've talked, I can immediately tell that you are a very determined woman. Where does that come from?
Wow. I would say my mom, like I said, she was in the Army, and every time she would know something is right or wrong, she would voice it. No holding back, and tell it how she felt it was and is. So, yeah, I think I definitely get it from my mom. And I also get some from my dad for the common sense side of it. Sometimes my mom is just angry. Sometimes she's just angry. But my dad would tone it down and say, okay, this makes sense. So, yeah, majority my mom.
Okay.
That means I know that when you're at home, he's probably going, please no flying dishes or
Yeah, don't throw that pot. Duck.
When you're not performing, I mean, because you do so much in so many different fields, what do you like to do for fun when you're relaxing?
What I do, play Uno. I like to play Uno with my fellow husband and nephew or family members. And when I win, I am a bragger. I will brag it all down. I like to play games.
Play chess?
No, do not like chess. And I actually have a little thing against chess, but we're not going to talk about that.
Okay.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah.
No chess.
No chess. But actually, because my day job is accounting at the current moment, so anything I could do in entertainment, or I like to make beats as well. I make beats on software or via beatboxing. I do music, I play the guitar, so I have a lot of things I could do when I'm not doing stand-up or acting.
How did you decide to choose that instrument, like with guitar? Because, so many different instruments and stuff. Is it just you were drawn to it, or did it add to the inspiration when you're doing poetry and things like that?
Actually, I was drawn to guitar. I actually play piano as well.
Okay.
But I was drawn to guitar because a friend of mine donated a guitar to me, and he showed me a couple of chords. And one day I was thinking about a song, and I wrote a song, and then I said, oh, well, I played it on the piano. I wanted to try the guitar. And then once I tried the guitar, I was like, okay, I really can do this thing. And I just started teaching myself how to play the guitar.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You see, you can do beats, you can do poetry. Could you give us a sample of any of those?
Sure. Pick. Anything.
Surprise me.
Let's say poetry.
Poetry. Okay. This is a pretty short poem. This is about homeless people, the ones you see out on the corner with a sign that says hungry and stuff like that. So this is a poem called Good Deed. Excuse me, ma'am, could you spare some change? You see, I'm hungry and I haven't eaten in days. Going through this pain, and as you can see, I'm going insane. So could you chunk some change so I can spend it on something that'll ease some of this pain? Telling myself I'm not to blame on how I just let my life go down the drain. You see, I'm on the grind, still on Main, so I could buy a drink or a needle to stick in my vein. Wait a minute, I'll do it today, I'll do it tomorrow. I don't know when I'll stop feeling down and sorrow. So come on and hear what I got to say. God will bless you if you just give me some change. You never know if I spend it on what I say. Just know you did your good deed for the day. This. Where there is someone on every intersection standing, begging for something they did not earn, making a career out of being a homeless panhandler, taking what was not earned by themselves but by others of no relation. You see, this nation is fixed on lending a helping hand by currency. And yes, there are some in need, but what about the large number that have hands like I do, have legs like I do, have arms and ears like I do, can see just like I can, but have a sign that reads hungry and they're asking for money? My response will be no. But what I can give you is a meal to eat and a phone number to a shelter, toll-free, of course, to get you off these streets. To give you money will only increase your confidence to beg, making you less of a man, so understand. My definition of a good deed is to help you, not hurt you. Good deed.
Very good, very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the inspiration that you are writing these things and doing these spoken things, what's the feedback that you get? Because, like comedy, the laughter, is it? What's the response that you're trying to get out of your audience in that field?
I'm really trying to send the message to allow them to know that you don't have to give this person money, or at least open their eyes about the situation, the way I see it through my eyes as well, because poetry is about emotion that comes from you and what you see in the world. So basically, it's not necessarily, I don't do it for the claps or the laughs. I do it for your ability to open your mind and understand my view of why I do the poetry.
And with all the determination that you've gone through, all the success you have, what keeps you motivated? Because there are the good days, and then there's those bad days.
Yeah, there's some bad days.
What keeps you motivated?
Staying alive, and wanting more of more out of life. That's what keeps me motivated. My husband keeps me motivated. The world, to try to be better in the world keeps me motivated. It's different things that will motivate me throughout my life.
Now, with your poetry, there's a message in it.
Yes.
Do you feel an obligation to teach, for lack of a better term, to spread knowledge, to encourage people?
Yes, I do. I feel like if anybody ever comes to me, some people have, and if I can spread the knowledge, I will. In a blink of a second, I will definitely let the younger people or even older people who come to me to ask for advice or have a question about anything, I will definitely spread the word.
And what does it feel like for you when the obviously, again, like I said to your husband, you're not that old, but how does it feel for you when the younger people come up to you and say that you're an inspiration to them?
Feels good sometimes, but it's like, oh, okay. Well, I can tell you what I know. I'm not a genius, but I can tell you what I know, and it makes me happy that people are curious to better themselves. So if when the younger people come to me, I definitely would like to help them and speak to them about it. So it's a good feeling to help them out.
And with all the different comedy clubs, which ones do you like performing in? Is there a certain one, like we were talking to Mickey about, like his home club? Like, is there ones that you walk in, like, I got this?
I would say Second City, the one when I go perform at Second City, I perform both stand-up and acting at Second City. So, yeah, when I go in there, any one of my acts I do, I'm like, let's do it.
You got the little medal
I'm ready.
for that first class.
Yeah, I got the certificate. They give you a certificate. Look at me. All right, now let me get on stage. No, not today. Next tomorrow, okay? Yeah, so it's just a good feeling to walk in those doors. It feels like home.
We want to make sure before we end this, though, where could people find out more information about you on social media, where you might be, websites? Give us the whole shot.
Actually, I'll have a play coming up at Second City that I'll be a part of on April 6th through the 27th, every Saturday night, called The Gallery. So, guys, make sure you check that out because it's going to be awesome. I'll be in it, so it's always going to be awesome. They can always check me out on my Instagram page at Sandrell Ross. That's SANDRELLROSS. Facebook / Sandrell Ross, spelled the same way. If you don't know it, it's SANDRELLROSS. And SandrellRoss.com as well.
And I've been to that one. You have some nice pictures there in the press kit,
Oh, thank you.
saw
I put that together, too.
That looked so professional. I was like, going, got the pictures, got her bio in there, everything.
Yeah,
See, I even spelled it right.
You did. Look at you, all by yourself.
Well, I have a little
I'm
help,
sure the
so.
wife helped.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure your wife will help, but we're not going to talk
I'm
about
still in
it.
shapes and colors.
Oh, okay. Stay in the lines. All right.
Not very well.
You're not very well?
No,
I could
no,
tell.
no.
I could tell.
Well, thank you so much. We definitely appreciate it. So, once again, thank you for watching Hero TV. If you want to see one of the funniest people that, we've seen out in the Chicagoland area, this is one lady you need to check out because she is a class act all the way. Thank you so much.
No problem.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much.
Yeah.
And we'll see you
pleasure.
next time on Hero TV.
With television now and high def and replays and all that, how has that affected your performances?
Well, it's changed a lot since I don't really do magic shows per se anymore, just the hospital. Once in a while I'll do a kid party or for someone I may know. I'm actively not really doing it. I don't take away from the pool of money for magicians. I feel I have a regular job and that's cool, but I don't turn down something like I've done some work with Make-A-Wish Foundation. I think it's cool that you can give back whenever you can. So how it's changed a lot is, first of all, the technology. There's things that magicians today can do that were impossible 100 years ago and everything in between. Also with people on the internet stopping something and fast forwarding, and you really have to watch your angles. So anyone who performs something where there's cameras, they try to figure out ways to not make that an issue because they know that people are videotaping things.
Now, let's pretend Paul and I are patients.
Okay.
You show us a little bit, we're patients in a room and you walk into our room. What could we expect?
Okay, well, let's see. First off, I walk in there, and it depends on your age. Let's say you're younger. I like this approach. I'll say, "Are you Johngy?
I am.
You know, I've heard about you. Everyone says you're like the best patient here."
Get out!
They actually asked me to do magic. I'm Chuck from Open Heart Magic. You want to see some magic?
I would love to see magic.
Great. Now, Johngy may have a brother, Paul, because we entertain the siblings.
Older
The
brother.
Parents, an older brother. Yeah, right. Okay, well, we'll see about that. So I'll say, let's try something special. You ever play cards?
A little bit.
Okay, we're going to figure you're around 10 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm exactly 10.
Okay. So they'll know, even if they don't play cards, they know their numbers, okay? So
Yeah.
we'll see how well you know your numbers.
Okay.
What would that be?
That's a 3.
Can you hold your hand like this? Now, it's going to get a little warm, but don't worry, it's not going to burn you. Just keep it nice and steady there. And do you ever play cards at all, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, this would be what?
Jack.
Okay, hold your hand like this. It's going to get a little warm, but it won't burn.
Okay.
Perfect. Keep it steady. Is it getting warm?
A little bit.
Okay, that's okay. Now, I hear you're such a special guest, and you have a special magic word that could maybe help. What type of magic word do you think it would be?
Cowabunga.
You know what? That may work. Now, at this point, I may give them a magic wand. I have gifts to give them a magic wand, bracelet, or something. So pretend it's a magic wand. Say cowabunga and wave it.
Cowabunga.
Paul, do you feel anything happen just now? You know what? I think it did happen.
I felt it.
Okay, remember what you had? What card you had?
I had a 3.
Turn that over. Paul, turn that over.
Get out.
Is that the craziest thing? I don't know how you do it, Johnny. That's fantastic.
Wow.
Want to try something different now?
We would.
Okay, this time, Paul, the much older brother,
I'm
pick any card
giddy.
you like.
Let's see.
And you
This
show it around. If you don't like it, we can change your mind because I want you to make sure you like it.
can't see it.
Why can't I see it?
Why? I don't. He didn't say we could see. You can see it.
Put it right on top of there.
Okay.
Now, Paul, you're going to tap it 3 times and say
Okay.
hocus pocus.
Okay. Hocus pocus.
No. Yeah, they're all red, but when someone taps it 3 times and says hocus pocus, a strange thing happens. Believe it or not, one of the cards magically turns blue. Now, I'm not saying that's your card, but one does turn blue. Now, would that be cool if it was your card?
That'd be really cool.
Was it a king?
It was a king.
John, do you want to try it?
I do.
Let's-
Why should he have all the fun?
You just say stop whenever you want.
Stop.
Right there. You have it memorized.
I do.
Okay. Now, I want you to tap it 3 times, say hocus pocus.
I'm tapping it?
Yeah. On the count of 3.
Oh. Sorry, I was
See,
excited.
you rule the trick.
That's okay. Try it now. It may affect
3?
something. Yeah.
Hocus pocus.
Okay, now, again, they're all red. What happens when someone taps it 3 times, says hocus pocus?
One turns blue.
Now, in this case, you tapped it a little premature. That's okay. I have a job.
They're all
You
red.
know what? That's strange. You know what? The book did say there'd be a blue card. Maybe you can find any blue cards in the studio, maybe?
Wait.
Oh, what was your card?
It was a 5?
Well, maybe that's the card then. Turn it over.
Oh.
Oh! Great job again. You did something very special.
I did it.
Angie. Give him a high five there.
I did it.
Okay, so
Wow.
that'll be something I'll do with the kids and something like that where they're, if I have brothers and sisters, I'll ask if they're siblings, and sometimes this is strange, it works with siblings, and I'll have them hold their fingers like that, touching it, and the card will change. I'll do things where they can sign a card. I do coins, I do rope magic, for instance. I brought this. This is kind of a cool thing. Make sure there's no knots in there. I'm gonna try to attempt to do the world's
It's
fastest
not free.
one-handed knot.
Okay,
But to
okay.
do this, what is your favorite animal?
Emu.
An emu. Now, you know what? I don't know if emu is going to work. We're going to try it, though. But at the count of 3, we all say emu, and there'll be a knot here,
Okay.
okay? 1, 2, 3.
Emu.
I hope it works. Oh. Now, at this point, I would ask the parent, does that look like a real knot?
Yes.
Me too. What do you think, John G?
I think it looks like a knot.
Do you
It's
think
an
it looks
emu
like a
knot.
magic knot or a real knot?
I'll say magic knot.
And you know what? The kids will always say that. Say, see, they know something we don't know. I used to think it was a real knot like your parent, but you're right. It is a magic knot. Now, do you know the difference between a real knot and a magic knot? See, the real knot, you can't do this. Imagine I just slide it right off.
Wow.
That's what's so